Welcome. This is Hugh Massie, the CEO and founder of DNA Behaviour International. And today I'm delighted to host another identity interview. And I'm very fortunate to have with me Kat Alexander from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And Kat is the CEO and founder of a firm called the Exchange Foundation. And she's doing a lot of work to help women who have been in challenging situations, abused, but also people with mental health issues. This is, in today's world, this is an absolutely crucial area, and it's great that she's stepping up to do that. She's been working with the business DNA systems for a few years now, and is quite experienced and proficient with them. And so we're just going to have Kat a conversation. So welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you for having me here, Hugh.
Well, that's great. So, Kat, why don't you just tell me a little bit more about your life and career, and how we've got to this place of you doing this great work in helping people with mental illness and being in abusive situations, or how to get out of them, perhaps, as well.
I actually started my career as a designer, so that's a really interesting place that I've ended up now. So I did my university degree in fine arts, actually, and then worked in design and advertising. But 17 years ago, I started to work with women who had been through abuse trauma and were suffering the effects of that. Just because I've always had a heart for women and to see people live the lives that they were born for. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So that's quite a shift in careers. And what I'm finding is as I do these identity calls, people have shifting careers. Even myself, I've gone from the very rational accountant, to dealing with human behaviour. I suppose that's what we do in life. Doesn't matter really what you do. You're dealing with human behaviour. But tell me a little bit more as to maybe that pivotal moment that got you to move from being in design to helping people with mental health issues and abusive situations.
Yeah, well, I had grown up in a very normal family, so it hadn't been part of my experience really. But when I was a young woman, first in my design career, I actually volunteered at this huge music festival in New Zealand where I was born, and I was asked to volunteer in a counselling tent sort of thing. It was a stay-in sort of Woodstocky sort of festival. And so that weekend I experienced a lot of people with serious mental health issues, one of which was a young lady seriously self-harming, and I'd never ever seen that before. And it really rocked my world. And from that moment on, I decided I wanted to do something to help, and that was really my passion. So it wasn't even 9 months later that I was on a plane to Australia, flown out to work for an organisation that was making a real difference in that area.
So that's quite a moment to have, isn't it? To suddenly, you hadn't experienced those challenges yourself directly, but to be doing something, as I suppose as a weekend activity at a music festival that's fun, to suddenly being immersed in it and realising that this was your passion.
Yeah.
Had you ever been thinking about these issues beforehand, or is it just something that came?
I've always had an empathy for people, and had been the personality type that helps. So as a young teenager at high school, when friends were going through things, of course, I would get in amongst it. And then I grew up in churches, so did youth leadership roles. So it has always been something part of my personality, but the shift from being a designer to a mental health worker was a huge shift, but definitely what I found I was way more passionate about, interestingly, even though I'm quite good at art and design.
So that was going to be my question with the art and design.
Yeah.
What were you do? What? I mean, that's a very broad field in a lot of ways. It can mean a lot of things. What were you doing in art and design as a creative designer?
I was working in advertising. So I started as a graphic designer and then went on to become an art director. So that's taking a client's concept from the very beginnings and then fleshing it out and making it become a whole ad campaign and directing the whole look and feel of that. So that's where I was at when I moved from the design world into the mental health world.
So when you were doing that, when you've got that experience, does that come out anywhere today as you're helping people with their mental health issues?
Yeah, absolutely. Because being in that kind of design world and also being right brain creative, it helps you think outside of the box and see solutions that other people perhaps have not put their finger on. So instead of, being single-minded in an approach, you can always take parts from here, there and everywhere and actually come up with something that people haven't thought of before. I find that happens a lot. And that's the basis of what we do at the Exchange Foundation, is actually take a person who has not had any success in the system as it exists already and tried a lot of things and really take a good deep look at their case, as I guess you would for an advertising client. You would take a really good look at the whole picture and you'd pull it together and say, this is what we want to do with it. And here's a new pathway you haven't actually thought of, and let's try this.
Yeah, so I thought there might be something sitting there in the creative design, because always the life journey of experiences where I've learned as you go along, you're building on one thing into the next. And
that's right.
Even though it seems like it's a very extreme shift to have moved from creative design, on paper you would say that's a very to helping people with mental health issues, that it's an extreme shift. You've really built on that.
Yeah.
In the way in which you're helping people, and I imagine that's part of the unique proposition of the Exchange Foundation.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very unique program that we've run. So it's something that really I don't think has been done before, because most programs for people recovering from mental health and trauma are a set program, whereas we take each client as an individual.
And so when you present the program to somebody, what do you say as the differentiator to them, about what's going to happen? I mean, really what you're doing is you're creating an experience for them. What do you say, or what happens there?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. Well, first we say that we look at you as an individual, not as a case. And we look holistically, so body, soul, and spirit. And then the other thing we do is how do I explain this? If we offer them a kind of support that's not available in an organisation. So it's all based around the facts on mental illness are that people, I believe, don't actually get well if they don't have human connection and support, and particularly people who don't have family, friends, and then people with mental illness get stuck in a loop where they do lose friends as well. So a major thing that we offer that's different is to come alongside a person like a friend and also introduce them to supportive people in the community who can just, be someone to go for a coffee with or whatever, because that's when it comes down to it, that's what's healing for a person is human connection and being treated with the honor, dignity and respect that they deserve.
Yeah, so I was wondering as well, is there a word in there like confidence that you're providing these people by having that human connection, the close support?
Yeah.
You're providing them with more confidence.
Yeah, confidence comes eventually. I think when people have been through real trauma, that their confidence does get completely taken away. And the more they're treated, as they deserve, they're treated well, the more confidence they get. And that's also where the DNA behaviour profiling comes in as well, because when people have been through such hard times, they don't believe in themselves anymore and they don't believe what they've got to offer anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's I'm not as a specialist like you are in the mental health, but that's what I see a lot is that people have lost their confidence, their self-belief, and they've lost clarity of purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
And then yes, it can get self-destructive, and you lose friends or something goes wrong, and you then need a lot of help. And it's not everybody there that's going to do that.
That's right.
So Kat, taking the DNA behavior and your business DNA style, which I will say for our listeners is that you're a reflective thinker. So a very considered thinker, prepared to work in groups collaboratively with people, which I think is probably coming out with the words support there. So a top talent for you is being what we call cooperative, but I think consensus building, collaborative is important. But also another trait there for our listeners to latch onto and sort of start to connect the dots with here is you being content, which in a lot of ways is creating stable environments.
Yeah.
Like you probably want to live in one yourself, but also I think that's being brought out that you can create stable environments for the people that you're helping. Okay, the individuals you're providing this life-changing experience for. So taking that, what did business DNA or the DNA discovery bring out for you? What sort of really landed for you in the when you got back that report?
Oh, you know what? This is a really interesting story. I'm glad you asked. In fact, when I did my DNA behaviour profile the first time, I had actually been through a very traumatic experience myself. So even though I'd worked in the mental health area already, I hadn't been through something myself, and I went through something major. So when I did my DNA report, I had PTSD and all the symptoms thereof. And so when I got my report, it was so incredibly powerful to sit there with the consultant who told me who I am and who I knew deep inside I still am that person. It was so incredibly powerful that it actually was one of the things that put me back on the path to wellness. And that's why I ended up studying and becoming accredited myself, because I knew that this was a tool that would definitely help.
So what was in the business DNA report at the time that made you feel that way? What did it say? What was something that was really memorable for you, or that connected the dots, really in a way gave you that level of empowerment? Because I think that's what you're saying it did, is it gave you some new level of empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get back up and get going again.
Yeah, so when you go through post-traumatic stress disorder, you just don't know which way is up or down, and you don't know what choices you should be making or if you're doing the right thing anymore, and you totally doubt yourself. And when the consultant read my report to me, she actually took a look and pointed out, if you look here, 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 and here, I can see that you think so deeply and rationally and clearly about things, even in a situation when you're suffering from a mental health issue, that it's almost impossible for you to make a bad decision. So trust yourself. And when she said that, I was just like, I just, I finally felt like I had permission to back myself.
Yep.
And trust the decisions I was making, even though, people in your world trying to be helpful, they're like, oh, you're not doing well, maybe you're not doing the right thing. But I knew inside already, I make good decisions. I know what I'm doing. I have thought about this properly. And so when the consultant actually confirmed that to me, that was everything. And from there, knowing that I had the unique ability to make very well thought out, rational, logical decisions, I could continue on and take the path that I had researched and knew was best for me.
That I think that's what that's what a reflective thinker is someone that generally can make very well thought out, considered decisions. And I think sometimes the only thing that's lacking is the confidence just to go and do it. So the fact that you had the consultant got you to get in touch with yourself and just say, Kat, back yourself is important, and that they could see that in your style, and then maybe just that little push helped you along.
That's right. And I think as well that particularly for women in business, as I also work with women in business and leadership as well as a different arm of the foundation. Trusting yourself and backing yourself can be harder for women, even without mental health trauma, just anyway. So I find that comes up a lot in discussions with women when it's in a business context, is that backing yourself, trusting yourself, knowing who you are, imposter syndrome, etc.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my purpose and why I do this is to help people become self-empowered.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that, in a way, Carol actually helped me get to that place, or to reconfirm it. I mean, I knew that, but to then have someone encourage you with that. I think it doesn't matter who you are, you need some encouragement with that to go and live that.
That's right.
It's very, it's very important. But as in doing the work you do, whether it's working with people with mental health or in the leadership training, what do you see as your standout talent? What's the one thing that's always strong there the whole time? You're 10 out of 10, if I called it that. We've all got some things we've got something we're 10 out of 10 at, we've got a few things we're 8 out of 10 at, and then we've got some 2s and 3s. I mean, that's just a reality for all of us. So what do you see as the 10 out of 10?
If I'm looking at what I do with people one-on-one with the DNA behaviour mentoring, I think the 10 out of 10 could be that I'm able to listen quite well and piece together what a client is saying, and then feed back to them, sort of hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listening, I think I would say that I could see that listening, creating a very comfortable environment for them because I think something with the work you do, people need an extremely comfortable environment if they're going to share.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And And so the creativity bit, being able to listen and help them connect the dots. That's something that's important. Is there any more pieces that jump out at you?
Trying to think. I'm not too sure. Thinking about what I didn't mention is I also do couples therapy too.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's still part of it. It's all about relationships, and just thinking about one couples therapy client I had, they were in such a mess because they had completely opposite personalities. And to be able to talk a couple through that and help them understand each other, I think I'm able to gather a lot of information from people and store it in my head, and then deliver the bits that are important. That's another 10 out of 10 part. So that's part of the listening, but it's also part of that reflective thinker profile where you gather a lot of the facts and things like that and really just narrow it down for people. And that really helps people get out of the sort of mess and chaos and have something to grab onto that they can move forward with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. No, it does. I think, yeah. So what I heard there, Kat, was that you're able to take a lot of information and that about a person, and that can include an individual, or it can include a couple, and assimilate that in your head, and then reduce it to something that's very simple.
Yeah.
And then totally. eventually out of that, provide a roadmap for them.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Now, do you write that down when you've got the new client sitting in front of you?
Yeah.
Do you write that roadmap out for them, or is it just something that you get it down to a couple of words for them, and then that becomes the center show? That's sort of like, in a way, the rock that everybody hangs on to and comes back to as you do the work.
Yeah, I would definitely take some notes, and then if you're in a longer conversation, once 5-10 minutes in, they might say something that's like, oh, that's very important. And then once you've connected all those pieces, then you feed back to them those really important parts. And then I will write out for a client a bit of a roadmap to, better relational harmony, and some things you need to do, some things you need to do, and how we can get along with each other better. And people really have that aha moment, like I did when I first sat with my DNA behaviour consultant, for sure.
Yeah, so it's the custom plan as well that is what they end up with.
Yeah, very customised, individualised, same as what I do with the foundation clients, one-on-one business and leadership clients and couples. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's a consistent formula in there, and what you're doing doesn't really matter who the client is, whether they're a mental health client, a leadership client, or a couples client. It seems that you're doing the same thing each time. It's the same talents that are being used or are coming out. When you came up with the name Exchange Foundation, was there something behind that?
Yeah, definitely. So exchange comes back to my Christian roots, actually. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about an exchange for the life that we didn't want, the life of, chaos and disaster, for a life of peace and joy. And so it comes from that. So it's about exchanging somebody's terrible experience, that feeling of grief, that feeling of worthlessness, all of those negative parts that life has come up for them, and exchanging it for the life that they were born for, the good life that they deserve, healthy life.
So in a way, exchanging life disasters or struggles for something great or joyous really is the word that I think you want to have. So it's helping people create life joy.
Yeah, that's right. And
it's got to be, and hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Hope is a big one, because hopelessness is the underlying feeling for all people that have been through something really traumatic. So giving people hope.
So if we take this and said, what's Kat Alexander's identity, and where in the world and in the rest of your life, and probably you've already been doing it, but where you can have the greatest impact on people?
Well, I think, I think the greatest impact that I can have on people is actually bringing that hope, through the tools that I've got in my hands, and giving them tools for themselves so that they can continue on that path.
So based on what I've been hearing today, it's really around creatively developing a customized plan for each person that provides hope.
Yeah, definitely.
So somewhere in there, that's what you're doing, because you're taking them from the edge of disaster to joy, with the carrot being that there's going to be hope there. And,
that's right.
And then you're using your reflective thinker style, if you want to call it that, to create a customized plan for them to do it. And helping them to see what to see what it is for themselves, or what it can be.
That's right.
Because I imagine you're helping them, Kat, see that what's the joy going to look like.
Yeah.
And that becomes the hope. That's what I'm feeling out of. That's what I'm feeling out of this.
I think for people, especially when they've been struggling in the mental health area for a long time, they don't believe that recovery of any kind is possible for them. So to even to sit down with them and to flag that possibility that recovery is possible. Like, we never promise people perfection or, everything will be amazing, but we do promise a pathway that people can step towards and make progress, and to give someone that hope that even tomorrow, next week, next year can be a bit better, and then it can continue to get better from there. That's really amazing for people.
Yeah. So in a way, you're transforming people's lives to provide them with hope, and and ultimately, really, that's joy. What you're doing is actually, I think the magic nugget in here is you're getting people to see what joy they could have in their life.
Yes.
Using a creative, so you're building creative plans for people, creative customized plans for people to see joy in their lives.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it's a little bit up to them, but also the support network to see that they can get there.
Yeah, definitely. Having worked in mental health for this long, it's definitely up to the person when it comes down to it. But people do, without a doubt, need that support and human connection to be able to do it. There's very few people that can do it on their own, and that, I think, comes down to personality type as well.
Yeah, I think there are people out there that can go further. Some can go quite a way by themselves, but I'd even look at myself as being reasonably independent. I still have I've worked with a coach every 2 weeks for the last 15 or 16 years. And I get a prod on something, or have you thought about that? but it also just boosts your confidence. And, that's a support network. I'm part of a business group called Entrepreneurs Organisation where we all share ideas and share stories for ourselves and experiences about these things, because it's the only way, it's part of moving forward. So you've got to have people around you who understand. And that's what, part of that's what you're providing. But I think with the support network is that people understand like you do. And not that it would have been fun for you to have had your own traumatic experience, but it does provide more empathy at the end of the day. But we've all got experiences to share. That's something that's important.
Yeah.
But I really do think it's important, that we landed the plane, Kat, on the word joy. Is giving people a customized plan to put joy into their lives. And then they've got hope, and there's more likely they're going to go and do it.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's always a point when you're going through mental health struggles where you get a glimpse of what it could be like to not be in this constant loop. I certainly had that myself. And so for people to catch that glimpse and then actually work towards that, even though it takes time, they can hang on to that hope for joy.
And is this something that you think that that you might already be doing it? Are you actually out there speaking to groups about this? To people to see that there are possibilities, and to unshackle, to get unshackled from it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do speak to groups of men and women about coming through trauma and how to, not exactly how to, because it's different for every person, but that the possibility is out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine with the couples as well, that there's been some trauma inside there that's affected the relationship.
Yeah, sometimes it just comes back to ways of thinking that they picked up in their family of origin, there's this concept called pretend agreements. We often make pretend agreements in all kinds of relationships. So one person fulfills a role and the other person fulfills another role, but nobody ever talked about it. It's just what we ended up doing, but nobody's happy. Yeah. So to actually get the conversation happening in a productive way and get rid of those pretend agreements which are causing frustration and get agreement. There's
often something in each. Yeah, I can see that there's something often in people's life history, or whether it's a relationship with a parent, a grandparent, or a sibling. Yeah. That then that continuously shows up somewhere else. And often you marry that person that you think is completing you, but in a way they're aiding and abetting it. But
they're repeating you, not completing you.
Yeah, they're repeating you. And that becomes problematic in its own right, particularly if one is more evolved than the other, or it just shows up in things that make it hard to communicate.
Yeah,
that's a very vast world to be in, but it could be traumatic for people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and often the most interesting couples to work with are the ones that have been together for a long time, because they have been repeating a pattern without thinking about it for a long time. But the amazing thing is that you can still make major changes in that relationship and be successful at it and continue on to have a long, loving relationship.
Yeah, I think, and if they're prepared to work at it and want to have the conversation, that's the thing. That's not always an easy thing to do.
Not easy, for sure.
So and I think I've just even learned more here that the pattern for you, a lot of it is taking people out of trauma and by helping them see joy, and you're providing the plan for that.
And another important factor, as I mentioned before, being a good listener is important, because for most people, feeling heard is so much like feeling loved that they don't differentiate between the two. So to feel heard and to teach people, especially who've been through trauma, that they have a voice, even just feeling heard is a major part of it, and that's where community comes in.
Well, it's a very special thing for people if they can listen properly, because not many people can. I mean, I think a lot of us like to think we're good listeners, but not many really are. But as humans, I think we all, the number one thing we want is we all want to be understood.
That's right. We do, definitely.
Sorry?
To the core. We want to be known in the core of who we are. Yeah, especially by just the, psychology studies say that we need that at least one intimate human connection to survive. Yeah. And aloneness and loneliness is actually pandemic in this world.
Yeah, and it's probably getting worse at the moment with the world we're in. With the lack of socialization, or make it harder for there to be socialization and people being cut off. It's a very difficult thing. And I suppose when people are in trauma as well, they might, because of their behavior, I think, as you said before, cut people off. So it's harder, and it just becomes a vicious cycle, or they don't have the confidence.
That's right. And people around them may misdiagnose, especially, for example, I work with a lot of women who've been through domestic violence. So often they've been in relationships where it could appear just fine and dandy on the outside. And then when it all blows up, friends and family go, "What happened?" And "You're acting weird," and people scatter. And so people who've been through that sort of scenario find themselves alone. The people that they thought they could rely on are no longer there.
Yeah. No, definitely when you go through something difficult, you need someone to believe in you, and that for that to be genuine.
Yeah.
And that will definitely start with listening. There's no doubt about it. So it really seems though, Kat, that you're taking a lot of people on the journey out of some kind of traumatic experience, and that could even be a business leader has traumatic experiences. I know as a leader myself in areas, I've had some traumatic experiences, and I've had to get myself out of that. In fact, a couple of my adult traumas have been as a leader. So it does, and then you need someone to believe in you. And to propel, for you to propel forward and get out of the funk, as it were.
That's right, and that's where it's really wise to have a good mentor in your life.
Yeah, and that's really that's one of the things that you're providing is the mentoring to take people out of trauma to joy.
Yeah.
And provide them that pathway.
That's right.
And so to me, that's around where your identity sits. If I was sort of piecing that together for today, is really being that great mentor, and with that, a good mentor is a listener that is taking people from trauma to joy by providing them a plan of hope. And I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, very.
So as we wrap up here, is there something else that you'd like to say to our listeners, or a tip, or a book that they should go and read, or something to go and explore or do?
Probably, if we have any listeners that are going through trauma themselves, I would say that maybe the people you've always relied on might not understand that, but there are pathways out there that people can help you through that. So just to the best of your ability, to connect yourself to someone who can love you and mentor you. So you might find that in a organisation or in a community group or wherever.
But they might be outside. I think the part of it is they might be outside your normal group.
That's right. Yeah.
And that might be actually more helpful than someone who's been within your group.
Yeah.
And
right.
Can't see it, can't look back in there and see it as objectively as someone else.
Yes, that's right. I think that's definitely what helped me personally, was finding new connections to help me through the trauma, because the friends and family who were already in my life couldn't comprehend it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not easy to either for a lot to comprehend and to have to deal with. But sometimes I wouldn't say you have to abandon them, but they've got their place in your life, and you need other people to help you move to the next territory and have that joy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so to just to do something like have a DNA behaviour profile, something to encourage you and really get to the bottom of who you are, and not make this trauma your identity, because it's not.
Yeah.
We're born with an identity, and it's not what's happened to us. It comes
the joy
from
has got to be the identity. And in a way, you've got the profile can be part of the pathway to getting them to see what the joy could be, and you're great at helping them see those possibilities. So this has been fantastic, Kat, and I've learned a lot today. It's been really enjoyable spending time with you, and I think that anyone listening to this is going to get a lot from what you've been doing and your insights on how to deal with trauma, mental illness, relationship difficulties. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.